This is the Creative Mindset Podcast, and I'm your host, Chris Eades. Today, we have a very special guest, Chris Eades, a.k.a. Life of Bad News. Welcome to the show. Happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Can you maybe explain to me where that name even came from, Life of Bad News?
I think it was more of like an earned moniker where it's not just like a name that sounds cool. It's like it pretty much represents a lot of my earlier life.
Interesting. Well, why don't we start with that then? I think you have a very interesting path that you've taken to get to where you are now doing, still visual arts through photography and video, but you have this really dynamic clothing brand, Life of Bad News, that is coming into its own fruition. Take me through the early stages. I know you grew up in a small town and were the little ginger boy, but other than that...
Yeah, there wasn't too many of us.
I don't know much about you,
Small Protestant town in Quebec, most English town in Quebec, Shawville. Hello, everyone.
Shout out Shawville.
Shaw Vegas. Started there. I was doing some film photography when I was younger, maybe like 11, 12. Me and my friends were skateboarding around the same age. Got into filming for skateboarding, creating little videos and stuff like that. And I continued to do that on through when I moved out of town into the city. And until I was about 19 or so, I was still filming a lot of skateboarding. And that's how I kind of got my in with cameras initially.
Yeah.
And then when I was in college, when I was 20, I had an opportunity to sort of drop out and start working as a photographer, almost as an apprenticeship, essentially, with somebody that was already in the industry for about 5-6 years.
That's amazing.
And from there, I just started building up my network and just finding my place within the different lanes that I wanted to go.
But my friend, how did the name come about? We want to know about those struggles.
This is true. Well, I used to drink a lot, and it was almost like I couldn't catch a break sometimes with either self-sabotaging or just things not working out the way I wanted them to or planned to. And just one thing after another just kept on sort of pushing me back a bit.
Sure.
But I stayed on the path because I knew it was the only thing that made sense to me was the art side of it. So one night I was trying to come up with a brand name for, say, like a production company, I think at the time was what I was going to be building. And then something else fell through that night. I'm like, well, isn't this just a fucking Life of Bad News? And I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, I think I just came up with something.
Well, what's funny is for us, specifically on this podcast, our bad news is that we're still not sponsored by Bubbly. And out of protest, we continue to crack ahas until that happens. So with me, do you want to crack an aha?
My pleasure.
Okay, perfect.
That's good ASMR right there.
Oh, man. I love that sound.
That's nice.
Cheers. So back to, those early days. I think, even for me, it was very interesting that photography was that hobby at the beginning that stuck. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of happy to finally find something that I was passionate about, and it wasn't going to be like the guitar that I picked up at 14 and fucking threw it in a closet by 14 and a half. Yeah. You know what I mean? So for you, those early days of skate culture and developing, an interest for photography and video, I think I would love to hear about some of those times and maybe some of the ones that defined you early on.
Well, the early on is like I was a chubby ginger kid from a small country town. So skateboarding, I knew I wasn't going to be going pro anytime soon.
For sure.
But it was one of my earliest passions and just something that I fell in love with, as a lot of people do with the sport. it came to the point where I knew that I wanted to be a part of it, and it was my identity, but I needed to find my lane within it.
Yeah,
That I
100%.
could still be a valuable asset and participate at a higher level than I would have if it was just doing the sport.
Right, right. And I guess what was that first camera that you were operating on?
Oh shit. That was my buddy's mom's old camera. It was one of the DV tapes,
Oh wow, okay.
and we had to go and clear that thing every half hour, skateboarding in front of the house, and it was just like it was a nightmare for some scenes, but it was perfect because it was what we needed at the time.
Right. Yeah, I remember, you know, we probably got into skateboarding around the same time, which was, Tony Hawk came out. And I remember, what is it, Trans World magazine.
Hmm.
You would always see this fisheye shot, and the video guy would be in it, and it was always the same camera, and I'm blanking right now.
VX 1000.
VX1000.
Sony.
We'll bring up a little graphic right here.
One of the most iconic handheld video cameras ever.
And I don't even know what it was about it other than the look. Because it definitely wasn't the technology in it. There was no autofocus, really. It was just a slick-looking piece that had this feel to it.
It was such a you were physically capable of doing follow shots low to
That's
the ground. Right. It had that top handle built in. It was just the perfect piece for what was needed.
Right. And then, so you get a little bit of a start there. You get your feet wet, and then you move to Ottawa for school.
I moved into Hull when I was 16.
Okay.
And then finished high school at Film and Write. And then within the next couple of years, I was living in Wakefield. I lived in Ottawa, started working in kitchens. It was a big transitional period.
Yeah, because I think I knew this already. Your brother was a chef, and that allowed you to, find employment, create a living.
Yeah.
And from there, you started to buy some more gear, and then things started getting rolling. Let's talk about that, because I think it's interesting to be an adult or have to provide for that first set of gear. Some people, for myself, I was in university. I had really found my groove, and my parents, God bless them, I believe it was $2,500 they gave me, and I bought a Canon 40D. I bought a 24-70, and I bought a flash. And I remember feeling on top of the world at that point. Oh, yeah. So I got lucky. It was given to me. But the struggles of people having to go through a day-to-day job that probably isn't what you want to be doing, really.
No.
To create some sort of, budget to go out and buy what you're really passionate about. I want to hear about that, because I know the dish pit is not easy.
No. And even after the dish pit, when I was online cooking in restaurants, I was still doing the photography full time as well. And goddamn, you hit the nail right on the head with the struggle of gear. Because even when say, 2012 or something, whenever The Weeknd came and performed in Ottawa, whenever the same, I think it was the summer, fall.
This is
before,
like the House of Balloons album?
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the trilogy.
Yeah.
And this was the first tour that he did. And then even A$AP Rocky in 2012 playing at Ritual nightclub. It's I think I still had, it was a camera where you couldn't take, I forget what the model name is of it, but you couldn't even take the lens off it. And I had a full Canon big flash on the hot shoe on that camera.
Yeah.
And shooting live shows like that.
That's actually how I started too. It was like this Fuji camera that and I thought I had bought an SLR, but I didn't know enough to realize that I didn't buy an SLR.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, you can buy this attachment that gives you a wide angle.
The lens adapter.
The lens adapter. Oh man, early days of figuring out what you needed is just. I'm glad I'm past that.
I'm still kind of in it. I don't think that's part of what my career is based on, is never having the proper gear but still making it work.
Yeah, because I even remember at one point, sadly, you had got robbed, and
That was after I finally got the camera I wanted.
I know, yeah, and I and I remember
Life of Bad News, yeah.
News had come out by that time, and I I literally was there being like, man, this guy's got such a fitting name, like he really is
It's
getting
too
screwed
on
by
brand,
the world. So I think I would love to hear you talk about, again, just the struggle of becoming an artist a little bit here. Because I think there's a lot of students that watch this program, and it's important for them to know that it doesn't come easy and it doesn't come quick.
And it's not a straight path ever. Like, if to be able to do this, it has to come first. No matter what I was going through, like at one point I was living out of my car, and the only consistent thing I had in my life was the art side of things, was my photography, or in between working at different jobs and stuff like that. It was like, I put the art always came first. That's the only thing that really made sense to me, was photography and visual art and just being able to create with the different mediums that I was involved with.
Right.
So whenever it came to, wanting to, I'm going to take a hiatus from this so that I can focus on bettering this part of my life or anything like that, I never really took those steps. So I was always so dedicated to just continually doing this full time.
Right. What's it like to live in a car?
I mean, I'm a bigger guy too, so it's not a ton of fun. You don't really get to stretch out when you sleep.
I don't even mean, physically. I mean mentally.
Oh.
What's it like to live in a car from a mental standpoint? And, I bet there was a lot of times where you're like, fuck, I'm living in a car.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like there's no escaping it because you're already in your home when you're in your car. But I mean, like, there's times when I was just so busy with my work and everything like that the only awkward part was like, where do I park?
And was it the Walmart parking lots?
Sometimes, for sure. They just let anybody camp there.
That's right.
Which is pretty cool. Shout out Walmart. Get sponsored by them too.
Yeah, we could get sponsored by Walmart. So, Chris, we have a fun little game that we've been playing on this show.
Okay.
Where we try to embarrass our guests as much as possible by diving deep into their Twitter feed. And
I don't know what's going to come up with that.
If the wheels are turning in your head right now, my guy, you tweeted a lot back in the day.
Apparently so.
So I'm going to bring up some tweets
All right.
from back in the day. And
I just talked about living in my car, so good luck embarrassing me.
I mean, that's very true. That's very true. This man has spit straight facts today. But I will try. All right. I loved this one, by the way. Okay? Haley Joel Osment grew up into a bobblehead of himself.
He's got a big fucking head.
What was the thought process behind that tweet?
I'm pretty sure I saw like a movie poster or something that he was involved with, and I was just like, God damn, he has a big fucking head.
He really does, because I remember he was in the Entourage movie, and he plays, the wealthy producer's son, and the entitled wealthy producer's son, sorry. And he's like, what, 5'6", 5'7", and just a massive dome.
He gets custom fitted hats.
Custom fitted hats.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. October 17th, 1999. Just kidding.
I was like, Twitter
It
was
was
out then?
Twitter wasn't even out then. You said, I want to hang out with Jennifer Aniston.
Mhm.
Have you hung out with Jennifer Aniston yet?
No, it still hasn't happened, but,
This is
the
your
world is
platform.
opening back up,
Talk
so
to Jennifer Aniston right now and tell her.
we can do a shoot, or we can hang out. Could maybe go get a coffee. You probably might be sick of coffee.
Jennifer, hit my boy up. Get some custom clothes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next one. And you know what? I picked this one specifically because it resonated with me too.
Okay.
And I know it's going to create a little bit of a conversation. So you said, and I quote, if I send you a pic that I took of you, don't add no filter.
Filters. I still stand by that.
How annoying is that?
Remarkably so.
I have this a lot with young models that are even paid to be there too.
Mm.
And I guess they think like my editing capabilities just aren't there yet.
I don't know what it is, but like you spend the time, even on some of the model shoots, like you just said, like touching up different things, making it clean, proper. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. And then let's fucking throw a sepia filter over this because that's what it needs.
Yeah.
No. Fuck off.
I love it. All right, one more, and then I'll move on from this.
How old are these?
Now some of them were from 2016.
Okay.
Some of them, this one, 2017. And I love this one because it's a bit of a question. And you said, what would you do for a Jamaican patty? What would you do for a Jamaican patty?
I remember when this came out too because somebody kept on replaying a Klondike bar commercial.
Yes, what would you do for a Klondike
And I was
bar?
eating a Jamaican patty, so it transitioned into that question. What would you do
this
for a
is
Jamaican
exactly
patty?
what I wanted. I wanted you to remember that moment. And
Yeah.
we are episode 5. We are episode 5. We are episode 5. Of the Creative Mindset Podcast, and we have finally hit someone who can remember a tweet that they sent 5 years ago. Thank you, Chris Eades.
Hey, anytime. I
Thank
do what
you.
I can.
Round of applause, everybody.
But I think the ending result of that conversation at the time was like, what would you do for a Jamaican patty was fucking almost anything. Like way more than what I would do for a Klondike bar.
What's the best Jamaican patty in the city? Have you tried this place, Run to Patty?
I have actually.
Yeah.
I met the owner of that spot on set at a music video. I want to say 2 summers ago.
And is that the best Jamaican patty?
It's fucking up there.
It's up there. Okay.
I don't think I have like a top list, but I know when it's bad.
Okay.
And that was really good.
Well, Chris, listen, I want to talk more about you and not Jamaican patties or Jennifer Aniston, but shout out to both of them for what they've given to this world. I am very excited to dive into Life of Bad News as a clothing brand. And I've had the chance to see the growth that's taken place, but there's 2 factors that I really love about it. Mm-hmm. A, the designs.
Thank you.
And B, how you market it. And I want to start with the designs. Mm-hmm. How do you come up with these sometimes? Because they pull on pop culture references from the past sometimes, mm-hmm. but there is a lot of design work that you've done to them, which is impressive in itself.
Thank you. Well, like when I was a little kid, like the stuff that my early influences were like Motown music, were TV shows from the 60s, like All in the Family, in the 70s and 80s, and like WKRP in Cincinnati, all these type of shows, Taxi, those were all like the things I grew up watching. So whenever it came to like pulling sources for inspiration from different pop culture eras, I kind of was able to open up the last 60, 70 years and pull from there and use different references and visuals that might strike up with something that's still relevant, but in a colorful way.
Yeah, and that's just it. Is I have a piece of yours which is the three Mercedes-Benz cars overlapping each other, which I thought was really fun. But you go very bold in some of your other pieces where, the text is either right in your face or
You're thinking of the Dolly Parton.
very much the Dolly Parton. Let's talk about that because at the end of the day, you probably found an image online, but then manipulated it.
Yep.
So let's talk about the graphic design portion of this. Like how do you curate the next design?
Well, at that point when I made the Dolly Parton hoodie, the fucking 9 to 5, she had a hit movie, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
She had a hit song with that movie, 9 to 5. And the whole like story behind it really resonated with me, where you're never going to get ahead if you think that just doing the bare minimum at a 9 to 5 is going to catapult you somewhere eventually if you stick with it. It's not the case. You have to really do things for yourself and make the opportunities come to you. But that was the whole thing behind that. I found an animated movie poster and clipped that whole thing out, added the font behind it, customized part of it, cleaned it all up, and then was able to just PFG print it.
Now, and sorry, I have a hair in my mouth that we're gonna show maybe if we can. Who knows? But I'm very interested in the fact that you decided to take, and I find it a very tedious approach, graphic design to create something, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you went to school for that.
I went one semester to Heritage College in Hull.
But you did not
for web
learn
and graphic
everything
design. Oh, no.
that you need to learn.
No, the instructor was like 80 when the internet came out.
Okay.
She was not teaching us like what was actually
So what made you want to do this then? Because, sure, I want to start a clothing label too, but I don't want to do all the shit that you have to do it.
I mean, that's fair. It can be a long, arduous process. It came to the point where I was around and working within the fashion industry, shooting lookbooks for different brands and helping create visual assets for other companies. And it was always something that I really had a passion for design. It was like I was always super into shoes when I was in skateboarding. I was always into like the clothing, the design part, and everything like that. Photography has always been like it's been my lifetime passion, but at the same time, I couldn't fully express myself just within the photography. I wanted to try out other different artistic mediums, and whenever I was able to, like, I've been trash at Photoshop. If you told me to draw, like, to make a box in Photoshop, I'd be like, yeah, all right, let me figure this out. But like when it comes to the process of how I make my graphics and everything like that, it just kind of makes sense. I know how to do the process that works for me, and I learned what I needed to know to do what I want. Now I'm taking on, like, I want to learn every part of it. So I'm always continually studying, learning different new techniques and stuff.
And is that YouTube?
Oh yeah. YouTube, or I
YouTube.
have some mentors too.
That's amazing.
That have really been in my corner and helping me huge.
Now, I think what's really interesting about the success of Life of Bad News is we had the pandemic that hit, by the time this episode airs, it might even be the 2-year mark. Yeah. And that's a long fucking time to be in anything. Some of my relationships haven't even lasted that long. But you've really come through the pandemic on a better side. And I think the big factor was that you got sober.
Huge.
And a lot of artists go through a process where they're on top, but they're buying, you know, $500 a blow a week, $1,000 worth of alcohol a week. Yep. And are they really their best? Because, you know, I know for myself, you know, I'm even trying to cut down the amount of cannabis I take in right now, just because I can see how better productive I am without it.
Yeah.
Take me through those early days, those first 30 days maybe of getting sober, and what that meant to you, and why you even decided to say, I'm going to take a stand and better my life today.
I think it had like more, for me, it was like, it wasn't necessarily like, I want everything to be better. It was based on me. My sobriety was based on, I'm sick of my own shit. I couldn't stop tripping over my own feet. And it just like, that wasn't helping me further any aspect of my life. So it's like the drugs and alcohol, they weren't helping me have a better apartment. They weren't helping me have better relationships with my friends and family. They weren't helping me with my professional consistency. No aspect of my life was better because of. So I had to really kind of look at myself and want better. And at that point, that was the first time that I started giving a shit about myself and wanting more for myself in social aspects, in business aspects, professional, like every part of it. Everything since I've been sober, every aspect of my life is tenfold better.
Yeah, and I think that was my next point. Was I was going to kind of congratulate you on that fact that, you know, it's been, 16 months now?
Coming up.
And, you know, the pandemic hit, you probably got to a worse spot quicker before it got better.
Yeah, I live alone in a basement apartment, so it was like...
Above a bar, by the way, guys.
Yeah, so it's within feet, I could just be as much liquor as I wanted or whatever. People deliver drugs, you know? So it's like everything, the convenience of that. But you have to really take personal stock and want, like, your decisions every day equal your outcome.
Yeah.
So whenever I started, just like my productivity as soon as I got sober, just 5,000 times higher. Like no procrastinating. I was just getting the things I needed to do done.
Yeah, and it really does show, because you're at the point now where last month you had your pieces sold in a very prominent store in Ottawa, Normal. Shout out Yan, shout out Normal. That's no small achievement in its own. I know how difficult Yan can be in the terms of curating the best product to have in a store. And for him to say, your time has come, is
huge tap on the shoulder.
So let's get into this. You know, Life of Bad News in the past 16 months since sobriety has had more success than the last 16 months probably before it.
Easily.
And I think it's important that people hear from you, you know, what your day-to-day life was like once you got sober.
Now it's I'll wake up early, have a coffee, get the computer started, immediately either finish up a design I was working on the night before, or finish an edit for photos or video clip that I needed to do for a client, something like that. I just finish off whatever I was working on the day before, and then I get some food and back to the computer. I'll probably eat in front of the computer.
So your structure is there now.
Everything I do is very...
You're not waking up at noon every day now.
No. No, before I was going to bed at 8 a.m. and waking up at 8 p.m. And
Okay.
now it's completely 180. Now I'm being uber productive, and just everything that I do in the day, I try to do 2 to 3 designs a day to either start or finish. 2 to 3 designs a day. Uh, I do, like, with my photography and everything, I'll do like next day delivery on all the edits. If I'm doing a video for a client, depending on the deadline, it's guaranteed within a week.
Right.
There's all these things that I hold myself more accountable. The more responsibility I put on myself, like personal responsibility, and knowing that everything that was the outcome was based on what I was doing for myself. So once I started taking control of that, then I just wanted more control of more aspects, and just the work, then the work ethic came with it.
Now, switching gears a bit, I think it's really interesting to see that not only have you changed personally through this, but even the quality of what you're producing has actually immensely grown.
Oh yeah.
What do you say to those people that are teetering on the edge right now and might be considering, sobriety?
If they're already teetering on the edge of thinking about sobriety or thinking about making that transition or the change and stuff like that, it's like you're already unhappy with what you're currently doing because it's not giving you the results you want. Otherwise, you wouldn't be thinking of changing anything. So make the change, try it even, and if you start seeing the results come, then why would you not continue that?
Because I think that's what's happened for you is that, it's almost as if it's life of good news now. Huh?
We can only hope.
Huh? Let's be honest, though. At the end of the day, life has been much better.
100%.
And maybe it is. We got to change the name to Life of Good News. I'm joking.
Sister company.
But at the end of the day, all jokes aside, the opportunities that have presented themselves would not have happened.
No, not at all. I wouldn't be nearly in the position.
And I think that's great to hear because, there's so many times where we feel that we've got it under control.
Mm.
We're doing a little bit of drugs on a Thursday night, but hey, nobody's going to notice on Friday morning when I show up to work or something like that, right? And God's honest truth, we're noticing.
Yep.
And it becomes that, stigma of that person,
Mm-hmm. Or you can't not see it when you see them.
And I think, again, back to the fact that it is something that a lot of people, especially when they're deep into, drugs or alcohol, and as a creative, they feel that they've got it under control and nobody has noticed, but...
Yeah. Well, it becomes a part of their process at a certain point.
Yeah. And I know I've used it sometimes as a crutch, being like, okay, I'm going to smoke myself silly so that I can, get to this mindset. Even better if I wasn't doing those things.
Yeah.
So what's life looking like for you these days? I want to hear about that. I want to know how good things are really, because they are good.
Yeah. I can't, I would be an asshole if I started complaining about anything right now. I got food on the table. I got a roof over my head. I get to full-time create in different artistic mediums. I feel I'm very fortunate to be able to do so, but I'll never use the word lucky because I worked my ass off and sacrificed everything for this to get to this point. But it's just the consistency now that's really bringing it to another level and allowing me to get the opportunities to continue to move forward and up.
That's amazing. Now, what's next for you at this point? Do you have anything fun coming up that we can look forward to?
Yeah, right now I'm finishing up the designs for the spring summer collection and some other projects that are in the works right now. Probably, I want to say like mid May, first, second week, I'll have another collection at Normal. Very excited about that. Shout out Ian and Normal. And we have another couple of projects that I'm personally working on for other brands as well, doing some ghost designing.
Oh, ghost designing. Like a Gucci ghost, or
Oh, shout out Gucci Ghost.
try to get it in there.
That guy when that shit came out, that was crazy at
Shout
the
out
time.
Trouble Andrew.
Yeah.
Canadian.
Is he?
Living in New York. He's
Oh,
from
shit.
Halifax.
I didn't know that part.
And yeah, he now lives in New York City.
Yeah, he's been killing it.
He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
I definitely have a couple of pieces. So, if people want to know more about you, how do they get to know you? Tell me your social channels. Tell me where people can
At
find
Life
the
of Bad
latest.
News on everything. Well, no Snapchat because
So it's
that's
at
a waste of time.
Life of Bad News.
At Life of Bad News on Instagram.
I'm a follower, but I'm just trying to dumb it down for the crowd.
That's my main page. Right now, my online store for lifeofbadnews.com is down, and I'm just waiting to restock and get that going again.
Oh, similar to a Supreme, right? You know, when the collection's done.
That's it. There's no in betweens right now.
He's following the trends, guys. He's got it.
I'm trying to set some too.
I love it. Well, Chris, thank you so much for stopping by today. It was a pleasure having you here. A lot of jokes, a lot of good, pieces of advice for those out there who are questioning a few things in their career path that might need changing. And I think it's important that we talked about those things. We're going to put a couple links to programs in the Eastern Ontario area for, sobriety, AA programs. There's a lot of good resources out there that could be of aid to those that are in need, and do not feel that it is a burden to others or I don't even know what I'm looking for here, but
Allow yourself to get help if you want it.
Exactly. We're all in this together, guys. Thanks for coming by, Chris. This is the Creative Mindset Podcast, and I hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Till next time, ciao.